Greetings, fellow mortals. Dark fantasy is an interesting concept that I've been thinking about a lot lately. While every piece of fiction does have its conflict, antagonists, and versions of evil, most people think of ideal worlds that are better than Earth when they think of magic, at least in modern interpretations. Everyday life in Middle Earth seems nice when there isn't a great evil to fight. Original Asgard in the Marvel movies looked amazing to live in. Then there's the wizarding world of Harry Potter and the world of Narnia to give amazing sense of awe. Plus, there's the Avatar The Last Airbender world and Pandora from the Avatar movie. Not to mention all of the Disney magical worlds that seem nice as well. Off to Never Never Land indeed. There's nothing wrong about desiring this sense of goodness in magic. I think everyone in real life would want magic to make the world a better place. The first thing that comes to mind for me would be the renewable energy that we would have with magic. Of course, a new form of power means a new form of power struggle. Humanity is the same no matter what. If there's something to fight over, then the battle will be fought. I think that's where dark fantasy finds its appeal. It shows us that there isn't a magical force that can fix all of our problems. Magic would help with a lot of issues, but it wouldn't fix the fact that there will always be selfish people and conflict. I think that's one of the reasons why Elden Ring and the other From Software games took the world by storm. I can't think of many worlds in fiction, let alone the fantasy genre, that I would want to live in less than the Dark Souls worlds. I may not have played them all, but I have seen and read a lot. Even if I was immortal, I know that my entire existence would be suffering in those worlds. While we might live in this clown world, at least this is better than desperately scrambling across the lands between to become Elden Lord. As many of you might know, Elden Ring had George R.R. Martin as a consultant. I don't know to what degree. My theory is that he just gave alternate names to things because a lot of the people, objects, and plot devices in Elden Ring have more than one name. Considering George's current work ethic, he probably didn't do a whole lot or any actual writing. Instead, he was probably like, why don't you call it this? And then the alternate name was added to the lore. I don't really blame Elden Ring's director Miyazaki for this. He probably wanted Elden Ring to get as much mainstream publicity as possible. And with the game's impressive sales numbers, he got it. And George R. R. Martin got some credit and got some praise, just like he wants. Instead of finishing The Winds of Winter, he's chasing praise. At this point, I don't think that he's going to finish it. George R. R. Martin is a 73-year-old obese man who has never taken care of himself. He could die tomorrow, and I don't think that anyone would be too shocked. That might seem cold, but that's the hard reality that we live in. If you don't take care of yourself, you're more likely to die younger, unfortunately. At this rate, I think that he's planning to let someone else finish the series when he's gone. He wants what happened with Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series or Kento Miura's Berserk. Brandon Sanderson finished the Wheel of Time series, and Berserk will be finished by Koji Mori. Both of the replacement authors did and probably will try their best to be as respectful to the original creator's visions as possible. So, who could finish the Song of Fire and Ice series? Well, it probably won't be the devout Christian guy or the manga artist, that's for sure. The lack of conclusion for the books left me with a complicated relationship with the Game of Thrones show. I wanted to read the books first, but they weren't finished. Then a bunch of plot twists got spoiled for me, so I never got around to watching it until that last season. Going off of only the things that I heard from other people, I jumped into that final season and was delighted to watch the dumpster fire. What a complete and irredeemable mess. It's what I thought Rings of Power would be before I saw that the Lord of the Rings ripoff was just going to be boring. There's something to say about a piece of storytelling being so terrible that you can't look away. Game of Thrones Season 8 was so bad, and I put the blame solely on George R. R. Martin. Do you know how many authors would kill to have that faithful of an adaptation? It's insane that he wasted it by refusing to finish the books so that the show could adapt them. For a while, I thought that would be it for Game of Thrones. I even scoffed at the idea of this prequel even happening. I just thought it was another way for George to get praise and attention instead of finishing the book. Finish the book, George. Do it. Finish the book. House of the Dragon is good. I wouldn't call it the best show that I've ever seen. There's nothing wrong with the plot from a logical standpoint. And the premise of these old male politicians fighting over the first female heir to the throne is, in fact, interesting. There's only a few problems in my mind. The show has the importance of the three main aspects of storytelling in the wrong order. It puts the setting first, the plot second, and the characters third. I can't say that I care too much about any of the characters in this show. They come off as rather bland. I'm not invested in their experiences as human beings as I am with the history of their world and the overarching plot. It's not that they're bad, it's just that they're a little boring. Hopefully that's fixed as time goes on. The second problem is how corporatized the violence, sex, and shocking moments are. Those are three aspects that define George R. R. Martin's work. It kind of feels like every act of violence, sex, and shocking moment has been carefully thought out by a group of executives to appease the fan base. It's weird to say that I think that House of the Dragon comes off as a bit too safe for its own good. But I do get that the writers, creators, and executives are afraid after what happened at the end of Game of Thrones. And that leads me to the anime adaptation, or at least an anime that's like Game of Thrones. Ranking of Kings was a series that was suggested to me many times. Its cutesy art style threw me off a bit, and I didn't know if I wanted to give it a shot. Fortunately, it didn't disappoint when I did give it a chance, because it did the best thing possible for a story. It made me care about the main characters first and foremost. Boji and Kage were two kids that were beaten down their entire lives. The deaf, small, weak son of two giants was looked down upon almost everyone around him. Kage had about as tragic of a young life as one could get. Their journey and relationship were the things that I cared about the most. The anime also made me care about almost everyone to at least a small degree. I didn't think that I would like Queen Hilling as much as I did. She was one of the best parts of the whole show, and I was shocked by the depth given to the half-brother, the knights, the king, and even the main antagonist. The world was intriguing, had a lot of layers, and made me curious about how the actual ranking system for the kingdoms worked. Plus, there was the lore of the gods. Even the twisting plot left me impressed. I didn't expect such a cute art style to depict so much blood, violence, and disturbing scenes. It was a fantastic show with only a few flaws. One, I think that the showrunners stretched the plot a little too much at the end. Some of those fights were drawn out as long as possible. They probably should have had 2 fewer episodes and made the story more compact. 2, I think that the mercy shown in the show goes a little too far. Even if bad people are sympathetic, forgiveness can only go so far. Also, there was child grooming. No, I'm not kidding, it was really, really weird. I do find it odd that this year has had me so engrossed in dark fantasy. Elden Ring, Ranking of Kings, House of the Dragon, hell, I even finished Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series earlier this year. I'm also finishing up S.A. Chakraborty's Kingdom of Copper this week. I totally recommend her series, by the way. Go and read them. I never would have thought that I would have liked these broken worlds so much, especially in a year that's been so difficult for me. COVID made life hard before, but 2022 has had the wall crashing down on me. Yet instead of comfort media, I've turned to some of the most depressing things imaginable. And the strangest aspect of it all is that these depressing stories have actually improved my mood. Elden Ring made me feel as though I can take my life in my own hands. Ranking of Kings reminded me that you really only need one person to believe in you in order to keep going. House of the Dragon makes me grateful that I live in a time and a place where I'm pretty spoiled, all things considered. Looking into a fictional situation that is a lot worse than my own made me feel better. It made me more grateful and cheerful. Things could be a lot worse for me. Even with all the hardships that I face, I can keep going. So perhaps that's the appeal of these dark fantasies. At least I'm not these people. At least I'm not in those worlds. There's a lot that I have in my life that I need to appreciate more. I should strive to be happy and satisfied with my life and my work. It's weird that these dark fantasies make me feel so empowered in real life. It's also odd about how it puts the hardships in my life into perspective. There's peace in death. There's new strength that comes out of weakness. There's a new level of satisfaction that comes from taking a risk. 2022 might be the hardest year of my life so far, but it's also the one where I grew the most as a person. Perhaps it's just me. Maybe other people just like the shocking aspects of these dark, depressing worlds. But I find happiness and joy in them, and maybe other people do. When the darkness is so vast that you can't see anything in any direction, a single speck of light can be a lifeline to keep you sane. These dark fantasies remind us of that, and that is something to be celebrated. Still not a fan of the weird sexualization of children, though. Can we please stop that? I know what the writers are trying to do, but I don't find hope in this when I'm reminded that Epstein's clients were never outed, that the sex trafficking trade is still going strong, that there's nothing that I can do about it, and that our governments are either complicit or deeply ingrained in it. Yeah, let's just go ahead and end this video on that depressing note. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It would really help me out. Also, remember that I'll be self-publishing my novel, Dance of Frozen Death, at the start of 2023. I hope that you will check it out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.